Iowa State's athletic director poking the SEC and Big Ten bear. And I kind of get it from his perspective. Welcome to Overtime with Matt Moscona. If you're on podcast, please subscribe. YouTube, please smash that like button, subscribe as well. Jamie Pollard is the Iowa State athletic director, was meeting with reporters in a gaggle earlier this week. And he made some comments about the SEC and the Big Ten, effectively threatening them. Like, if you keep talking about it, just go and do it. Here were the comments from Pollard. I'm going to play them for you, then we'll come back on the other side and I'll react, because I kind of get why he's saying what he's saying and when he's saying it.
I mean, I said it 3 years ago. Yeah. Let them break away. I'd say I would turn it around and say we should break away from them. Let them go, but they have to go in all their sports and see how fun it is to play baseball and softball and track when it's just the 20 of you, and that's what I think we should do. But I'm one person, and, that's probably a little more draconian, but that's how I feel about it. Like, let's quit talking about it. Quit threatening. Go do it. But if you're going to do it, you don't get to just do it in football and then keep all your other sports with us. No, take them all.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack there. And the end part of that, where Jamie Pollard says you don't get to just do it in football, take all your sports, he's not in a position to make any sorts of demands or play any cards. Do you know the phrase "nothing to lose"? It was actually a movie in the late '90s with Tim Robbins and Martin Short. It was hilarious. Anyway, it was titled "Nothing to Lose." Maybe a better example is in a real world, very serious effect. Maybe someone's given a diagnosed with a terminal illness, like you're going to die, but there's an experimental treatment or drug that we just don't know enough about yet. So we got nothing to lose. You might as well try it, because if it doesn't work, you're no worse off. That's kind of where Jamie Pollard is coming from. So I want to talk about what this is going to look like inevitably for the SEC, the Big Ten, and schools like Iowa State. But just to paint the picture of where Iowa State is right now, okay? When the House settlement last year went into effect, allowing schools to share in revenue up to $20.5 million every year with their student athletes, remember, that added a $20 million line item to every school's budget that wants to compete. You cannot compete at the highest level if you're not participating fully in revenue share, okay? So whatever your athletic department budget is, whatever it costs you to pay coaches and for facilities and travel and recruiting and meals and scholarships and all that, well, like now on top, and most athletic departments break even or lose money. Trev Alberts has said it best. College athletics doesn't have a revenue problem. It has a spending problem. But anyway, the point being, every school in one day added a $20 million line item budget to now start paying their players. Well, we've talked about it plenty. To make that up, you either have to cut expenses or increase revenues. And both are trying, and every school is trying to do both. Where can they tighten the belt? Arkansas recently did away with their tennis programs. Then they got donors that came and contributed money and reinstated them. But the point being, everyone's looking, how can you defund certain sports, right, to get your expenses down? Maybe instead of flying private and staying in a resort, you bus and stay at a Holiday Inn. No disrespect to Holiday Inn, just understanding that's how you can maybe manage cutting budgets. And then where can you find new revenue streams? Obviously, we've talked about like jersey patches and naming rights for facilities and logos on fields and different things like that. What new revenue streams? A previous episode, we discussed television rights for the postseason. It's why you're going to see college football's postseason expand. It's why the NCAA basketball tournament just expanded as well. It's not that you're aching for more teams in the basketball tournament. It's more TV inventory, so your revenues will go up because your TV partner will pay more for more inventory. Everyone's looking for new revenue. So when you look at Iowa State, they currently are operating at a $147 million deficit over the next 5 years. It's about a $24.5 million budgetary shortfall annually. So as to say, Iowa State just has no way out of this. They're too much financially in the hole. And this is an athletic director in Jamie Pollard, who just saw his head football coach, Matt Campbell, leave for Penn State, a school in the Big Ten, and take nearly 30 football players with him. And there's nothing that he can do about it. When you look at the budgetary shortfall there at Iowa State, they are very much in trouble. They have paused facility upgrades that they were planning and preparing for, and the kicker for Iowa State is that roughly a third of its revenue comes from TV. Roughly $40 million annually in revenue comes from from TV rights partnerships, both with the NCAA tournament and with college football as being part of the Big 12. Well, they're already operating a $24.5 million annual budgetary shortfall. A third of their revenue comes from TV. And if the Big Ten and the SEC break away, now a third of their revenue is gone. What are you left with? You're left with a shell of whatever you were. You're just not the same anymore. That feels like an inevitability. So he's sitting there going, look, we're screwed anyway. Just leave. What are you waiting on? You've been talking about it. Just go. Yeah, but when you go, remember, we're not playing you in anything else, which is maybe the only card he can play, but it really doesn't matter because the powers that be in the SEC and the Big Ten that are ultimately going to make the decision aren't making the decision about if they're going to break football away and operate it independently on how that's going to impact track and field or softball or tennis or lacrosse. You understand the point. And this is the reality of what they're facing. You heard Jamie Pollard in that cut say, you play all sports, you're going to good luck playing just the 20 of you. So that's where he also is sort of misaiming here. I want you to keep in mind, it's not 20. There's 18 Big Ten schools. There's 16 SEC schools. Okay. Right there, that puts you at 34 teams combined with the SEC and the Big Ten. So that's 34. That's more than 20. And you cover the entire United States of America. Of course, the SEC has the southeastern footprint. The Big Ten, with their expansion now with USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, you represent the flyover states as well with schools like Iowa and Nebraska. Of course, Oklahoma is in the SEC. You've got the Midwest with the Michigan schools, Ohio, and even the East Coast with Maryland and Rutgers. So I'm not saying Rutgers is a gigantic brand, but they are in the Big Ten and they do represent the East Coast. So the point is Penn State. So you do represent the entire United States of America with those two leagues as they're currently constructed. And then when you look at revenues, okay, this is the other part that I think is sometimes has to be focused. So this was fiscal 2025. So the most recent fiscal year with the books closed. Texas led all schools in total revenue with $343 million. It's an incredible number. Ohio State was next. Tell me if you see a trend here. Ohio State was next at $295 million. Notre Dame at $289 million. Then Tennessee, Penn State, Alabama. You noticing a trend? Michigan, Texas A&M. You getting it? Oklahoma. Got me? Southern Cal. Georgia, yeah. I mean, it's all SEC and Big Ten schools. Now, Miami is next at $230 million, and this will start to tell you some of the story as well. LSU, Nebraska, Auburn, SEC, South Carolina, SEC, Florida, Arkansas, Stanford, Florida State are next. Then Wisconsin of the Big Ten, Kentucky of the SEC, Clemson of the ACC. You still haven't gotten to a Big 12 school yet, by the way. Indiana, Duke, Missouri, North Carolina, Iowa, Big Ten, Washington, Big Ten, Illinois, Big Ten, then finally Kansas at $173 million in the Big 12 is the first school. And that's obviously primarily because of their basketball revenues there with the Jayhawks. All that to say, the 34 power programs in the Big Ten and the SEC can absolutely structure themselves the way that the 32 NFL teams do, or the 30 Major League Baseball teams, or the 30 NBA teams do. that are about to add 2 more, obviously, so it'll get to 32. And I know college fans hear that and sort of recoil and think, we don't want to be pros. Well, you already are. And all the things that you don't like presently about the way college sports are structured, breaking away fixes that. Because when college football breaks away, and by the way, this is an inevitability. It is going to happen. College football is going to operate independently. I've been saying this for 14 years, since 15 years now, since 2011 with the first big round of realignment. This was always an inevitability. The only thing that stops the eventual breakaway is if all the very wealthy people who have grown college athletics into a $1 billion annual business decide they don't like money anymore. If they want to go backwards, if they want to stop making money, if they want to deconstruct stadiums, reduce ticket prices, do away with TV revenue, coaches take less money. If you want all the things that sound absolutely ridiculous at this point, if you want to go backwards, it's the only way to undo this. But like the CEO of Apple isn't going to say, you know what, I think we're big enough. We don't need to keep growing and expanding. The CEO of Amazon isn't going to say, Jeff Bezos isn't going to say, we've had a good run. We're at a good spot. Let's stop. Of course you're not. Every growth-minded individual is going to keep looking at how do we grow, how do we expand, how do we get bigger, better, all that sort of stuff to benefit everybody, to benefit the coaches, the players, the fans, the universities as a whole. And so you're never going to stop that growth. And with that being the inevitable end, the only way to get there is going to be by breaking away and having a super conference in football where you have the 34 teams we mentioned, and then some of the others, Clemson, Florida State, maybe Stanford, those that can buy in or invite only. Maybe SMU could certainly afford it. Maybe it's like you have to have a certain financial buy-in to get there. And so all of those schools would be able to participate. You'd run independently. You would sell TV rights like the NFL does. Like the NFC South doesn't have its own TV deal. The NFL has its TV deal, and college football will have its inevitable TV deal like that. And at that point, the players can unionize. You'll actually be able to have a salary cap and things that look more like a professional sports league, and that will calm down a lot of what we see. I think that's going to be better for fans. I know that sounds so counterintuitive to a lot of people, but from my perspective, I would always rather see 12 great college football games on a schedule than 8 league games and 4 garbage games that are force-fed us as fans, and we're told every Saturday matters in college football, which just isn't fundamentally true. Indiana just illustrated that. Before this past season, Indiana canceled a future home and home with Virginia to sign games with Kennesaw State and Austin Peay. Tell me how that's good for college football. Tell me how that's good for the college football fan. When instead of watching Indiana against Virginia, you're going to watch Indiana against Kennesaw State and Austin Peay. Because the committee basically told them, it doesn't matter who you play. All that matters is your record. It doesn't matter what the 11-1 looks like. If you're 11-1, you're in the playoff. That's what happened 2 years ago when Indiana made it playing one ranked team. So they were no longer incentivized to play tough games. So why play tough games? Well, as fans, we want to see great games every Saturday, but everyone needs to play an equitable schedule. This is the way to get there. It's an inevitability. And Jamie Pollard knows Iowa State won't be part of the cool kids club. Their revenues and their brand isn't enough to justify Iowa State being included in that. So he's sitting here with nothing to lose saying, go ahead, break away. And he's focusing, but his argument is not about the revenues it'll generate for football or men's basketball. His argument is have fun with the 20 other sports playing baseball or tennis or softball. And what will happen ultimately is that we'll regionalize. If in fact it does come to that, then in the regular season, you'll regionalize and you'll play a postseason that looks very similar. But who's really going to be hurt in those instances are the non-revenue sports at places like Iowa State, because now they are going to be defunded because their revenues will no longer be tied to football and men's basketball. They're no longer going to be able to travel. Those sports will become basically club sports, the equivalent, right? You want new uniforms, have a bake sale, a car wash, and raise money to buy new uniforms. Like that's what it will become. So in some respects, I get Jamie Pollard, his frustration, but it's also staring down the reality of his situation. But in so doing, he's also cutting off his nose to spite his face. This is something that I know it's a seismic shift, and a lot of people don't like it because they human beings are inherently resistant to change. We don't like change. We like comfortable. Overwhelmingly, people never move from the city in which they are born. We like stability. It's part of our nature as people. And so when you see these sort of seismic shifts in college sports, we don't like it because we like the way things always have been. We don't want it to change. But sometimes changes for the better. And this is going to be one of those instances where if you really don't like what's happening in college athletics right now, change that will create that stability. It will move, it will shuffle all of the pieces on the chessboard. But in so doing, will eventually get us to the point where we create stability, but also have a much better product as well. So if you're an Iowa State fan and you found this, Godspeed, but your AD knows the inevitability, and I'm sure you do as well. Hey, thanks so much for finding the show. If you would, do me a favor, if you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review. And if you're on YouTube, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. It is Overtime with Matt Moscona.